Welcome to the Gray Area. The Gray Area Media. We've obligated ourselves to be the voice for all communities, speaking on topics that include community, religion, education, politics, technology, sports, health, and wellness. The Gray Area Media is a platform created by longtime friends for the sole purpose of providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern-day issues. The Gray Area and its naming significance solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you. Hello, Facebook. We are live right now. This is The Gray Area, and this is your boy, Ray E.
This is your boy, P. Wills. What's happening?
We have
This is Ebony.
Ebony. I know. I'm sorry. I'm going to start letting you introduce yourself.
That's all right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
We're so
okay.
used to,
Yeah.
That's all right.
And then we have a very special guest for you guys today, Christine Mannina of the Medina Files.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
No
coming.
problem. Let's start with the Mannina Files, because the Mannina Files is your new podcast,
Yes.
and basically you go into details on detective work. And are you like solving crimes for people, or like walking them through specific mystery crimes that you had, and then toward the end? Because I listened to one toward the end, you kind of find out everything that's going on. So is that the gist of the Mannina Files? You're basically becoming a detective yourself?
Yeah, so it's a recap of my time in homicide and my time in investigations. I spent most of my career in investigations, so
Right.
it's a recap of these cases, kind of a play-by-play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it does give the viewers a
Yeah.
time to play detective along with me.
Yeah, absolutely. All the viewers, real quick, while you're online, go to www.themanninafiles.com. We're going to post that in the live feed. That's Mannina with two N's, Mannina, Mannina, files.com. Go check that out while we're live, because we're going to be briefly talking about the Mannina Files for a second. So you just I'm sorry.
No, it's
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Well, I was just gonna ask. I mean, how'd you come up with the name? Because
That's a
it
good
sounds
question.
like the X Files. Like,
Yeah, that's a good question.
I can't take credit for that. It sounds good, though, right?
Yeah,
Mannina's
it is.
kind of a cool name, right? Mannina.
Yeah, real. It's your
Funky,
last
cool
name.
Mannina.
Yeah.
Right?
It's your last name, Mannina,
Yeah.
Mannina Files.
Yeah.
yeah,
They're your personal detective files.
Yeah.
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 But
I
it
mean, it's
sounds
all
like-
my files, so.
yeah.
There's a lot of them.
It sounds very suspenseful.
Yeah.
How many would you say, if you could tally up, how many cases? Should I even ask that?
Probably,
Did you keep count?
Probably, well, I counted one day, so probably close to 700 cases.
700 cases. Wow. Mostly in Indianapolis, or all in
All
Indianapolis?
in Indianapolis.
All in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you a detective in Indianapolis?
Let's see, I've been on the department 22 years. I probably spent 16 of those years in investigations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
What's your most memorable? Okay.
I'm asked that a lot.
I figured you did. So
You know what? It was actually featured on Investigation Discovery, I think in March, on Real Detective. It's an episode.
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, called No One Is Safe. It was a horrible case. I had a homicide case, and I had really good witnesses.
Yeah.
And when I locked up the guy, he was able to get from jail. He was able to get his cousins to kill both my witnesses.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
awful.
Wow.
And I really, really liked them and worked
Right.
with them closely, and was
Right.
like, was trying to get them to get out of town and at least move to another part of the
Right.
city.
Wow. That
So,
just
yeah, it was-
shows you the realness behind
Yeah.
the detective work.
Yeah.
Because that's stuff like that you see and hear in movies.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, like, I could say I've seen that in the movie. I can't say that I was part of an investigation.
Right.
Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a really big deal. Probably my most disturbing case. They were good people, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and it was just awful. And it doesn't happen often, you know, because I know people are reluctant to talk to the police,
Right.
you know, due to things that they feel like will happen. And I had never experienced that, but I was concerned from the beginning of the case about these two witnesses, and I was
Right.
trying to get them to roll to the other part of the city and
Sure.
or get out of town, and
Right.
you know, and I think they felt comfortable when I made the arrest, you
Right.
know, and said I got him, he's in jail, but
Yeah.
wow, it was
Still, you lost
devastating.
people.
Yeah, devastating.
How? I mean, and detective work has to take a toll. Let's start with when you started, when you got into detective. You became a police officer first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's start there. Like, well, let's start with how'd you get it? What
Yeah.
made you want to be an officer?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was 7. You guys remember Chips? Remember?
Yeah. I remember
Chips.
Chips.
I was Chips.
Yeah.
But I was 7, and my dad got pulled over. And the
Okay.
whole event of watching the officer, well, the blue and red lights, and then the officer coming up to the car, and that whole type of thing. And then probably maybe 6 months later, we had I was probably 8, we had a guy break into our home who was trying to get away from a couple guys that were trying to drown him in Fall Creek.
Oh, wow.
And he picked our house
Wow.
to try to get into, and you know, when the window broke and he was trying to get in, I was running toward to see what was up. Like, I wasn't
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
And that whole kind of situation and the way the officers dealt with that, and just the intriguing part of it, and the excitement, and the adrenaline, I was done.
got you
I was
amped up.
done. I was done.
Fell in love with it.
I was done every Halloween. Every Halloween.
Wow.
Wow,
So
that's
you, at a young age, you decide you want to be an officer.
Yeah.
So at what age were you able to get into the law enforcement?
21. So I went to college and studied criminal justice, and then
Okay.
I just went applied everywhere I could apply.
Oh, okay.
And I was hired up in Bremen, which was a culture shock because it's a small town of about 1,500,
Oh, okay.
and they had never had a female officer.
Yeah.
wow.
It wasn't a fun experience, but I was up there about a year, and then I applied down here in Indy,
Wow.
and been here ever since. So
Yeah.
Wow.
So how long have you been with IMPD?
22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Wow. In it to win it.
Yeah, still in it, still trying to win it.
Yeah. Do you know my aunt and uncle? You might know them. Ed and Marilyn
What's the last name?
Grinnell. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Leah?
You know them? Yeah.
I know Leah.
Yeah.
Leah too. Yeah.
Yeah, she's up in the chief's office. I know Leah. Yeah,
Small world.
absolutely. Yeah, good people. Good people.
Yeah.
So you got in at 21,
About 22.
22 years
Yeah,
old.
Uh-huh.
You did a year, and then you moved to Indianapolis,
Yeah.
and that became your thing.
Yeah,
So
I'm from
at-
here, so I wanted to
Right.
get back.
At some point, you became a detective.
Yeah, I was about 5 years after working the street, and I had a lot of fun on the street. It's fun. I mean,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I started to get a little burnt, and I thought, you know, I want to go in and be a detective. And so I started out as what's called a general detective,
Yeah.
which is kind of the first step where you kind of just do property crimes. And I'm
Right,
like,
right.
I don't care.
As what do they call the regular officers? I don't want to miss.
Patrolman.
Okay, patrolman.
Yeah.
So as a patrolman, you said you got burnt out. Does that mean like you became kind of desensitized to certain things,
what?
or what? What was it?
I've been lucky. I don't get too desensitized. I
Okay.
had a lot of fun on the street. I think I was looking for a new challenge,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
and I knew
Yeah.
I wanted to be, you know, being on the street and being the first person on these people shot or stabbed or these
Right.
guys, and then calling for homicide. It was
Right.
like, whoa, I need
Yeah.
to be
What
that.
beat? What beat did you work?
I worked, I was in North District, so I worked my first probably 3 years I worked late shift, which
Yeah.
I did 38th in Meridian
Okay.
to Michigan and over to college in south of Fall Creek.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
You had a little bit of everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun, absolutely
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. So you be a patrolman,
yeah.
and then you became a detective.
Yeah, I was a general detective for a minute, and then I went
Okay.
into domestic violence.
Okay. Oh.
And a large
Yeah.
majority of those cases are domestic violence cases.
Okay.
And, you know, that was challenging.
Right.
But, you know, it was one of those things where it's not hard to figure out who did it.
Right.
It's a
Right.
domestic situation.
Right.
And the cases are, you know, you can get 20 cases a day. Every day I walk into work, you know, I got 20 cases.
Wow.
And I knew ultimately I wanted to go into homicide, so that was
Right.
my next. And I interviewed, you know, they put out a kind of an internal thing that they're taking. There's an opening up in homicide, and you know, I hadn't been on very long, and it was kind of like a man's club type of thing. There was like
Right.
one other woman up there, but I'd heard the interview process was grueling. You know, it was and I did it to get the experience because I knew I was still young, and
Yeah.
they called and said you can have it. And I was
Right.
like, what? I was like, what?
Wow, nice.
Was your experience as a woman patrol officer different from the city you came from? You know, your
Well,
first year.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything happening up in Bremen. I mean, it was like Amish buggies and like there wasn't anything. But you know, I think being a woman in this field is you have to prove yourself. Because
Yeah.
you know you're backing up people, and you know
Right.
you're dealing with people at 3 a.m. They got to know you got your back. And I think I've been lucky. You just have to get in the fight. You know, once they know you'll jump in
Right.
and try and save them or make sure that they're okay, then you're good.
Right.
So
Right. Okay.
you know.
Wow. As a patrolman, what was like, have you ever been in like a high-speed chase?
Oh, absolutely. Those are fun. I probably have been in
Say those are
everything.
fun?
I know. I know those are fun.
Well, they're very, very dangerous, but they are fun. And I think, as police officers, we're personalities. And, there's a type of adrenaline rush, as dangerous as they are. Like my first vehicle pursuit, I was going north on Illinois. It started about Fall Creek. And I got to the intersection and crossed 38th Street, and I never even looked either way. Like I just,
Wow.
and luckily it was like 3 a.m, so there wasn't a lot of traffic. But
Yeah.
you get such tunnel vision, and it becomes this chase. But yeah, I've been in many pursuits,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
many pursuits.
Wow.
Sounds like it takes a lot to get you burned out of anything.
I think, you're
She's burnt out.
Excited.
You don't seem burnt out at all.
No, I
You
mean,
can go
it's-
another 20 years. And
yeah, I mean, it's a great job. I mean, I can't look back and say that it didn't treat me well, and
Right.
hopefully the people I served I treated well.
Sure.
But dealing with people's problems for 8.5 hours every single
Yeah.
night gets a little,
Right.
because you come to work and maybe you're going through a divorce or something, and then you're dealing
Right.
with everyone else's.
Right,
That's
right.
that's really the burnout.
Yeah.
part
Yeah,
of
that's
it.
what I was going to ask you. How's that transitioning? How's that transition when you have a personal life and then you have work? And becoming a detective is more than just a patrolman. A patrolman, you have a shift, right?
Yeah.
As a detective, you could be
It's 24/7
all day
Yeah.
trying to figure this
I
out.
mean, it's not. I didn't do as a whole as far as police. I didn't do well. I mean, I won't lie. I had 2 divorces and trying to get that, and I didn't want to marry another police officer.
Yeah.
Like it just, but
yeah.
Yeah. Why
It's-
not?
it just, somebody told
Yeah,
all that
I got you.
stuff,
That's a
and-
good point.
but they're the only ones that really get it.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
and I married, twice outside of, and it just posed a lot of challenges. And then you're married to the job. If you want to be good, I wanted to be good. I wanted to be a good homicide detective. I felt like I owed it to the people that I worked for. I mean, it's the ultimate crime, and you can't half-ass it.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
If you want
Right.
to be successful, you just
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Do you view what you are doing as more of a job or more of a calling?
absolutely a calling. I mean, you're never really off.
Uh-huh.
I'm always kind of keeping my eyes open, and that need to try to jump in if something's going wrong is there, and it never really goes away. So it was a calling for me, absolutely. And like I said, it's treated me well.
Yeah. I could tell that you got the officer, 'cause when you came in,
Yeah.
you gave me a look, and then you kind of looked like,
Around, yeah.
let me check my
You're-
perimeter,
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just second nature.
It's behavior, it's something you learn
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you know your surroundings. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. It's just
No, he told me. That's the main seat. That's where I wanted to sit, but I'm not running the show.
Sure. Yeah. So now, so you became a detective.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like, being a detective versus being a patrolman?
Well, I think the patrolman, you get called, you deal with it quickly, and that you deal with the issue quickly, and then you move on to the next run
Right.
all night long. With the detective, you become invested. You're invested in these people. You start to learn about these people, their families, their situations, what happened to them,
Right.
and you investigate it, and it becomes, it kind of becomes personal. You want to
Yeah.
find justice. You want to find the answer. You want to put the puzzle together. So, you become invested in time consumed into it, and that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah. Wow. And then now, so I'm going to shift over a little bit to the crime. Crime in Indianapolis is a little out of hand right now. But there's lots of different things happening with the climate of crime in the country. But Indianapolis specifically is really close to Chicago, Gary.
Yeah.
Lots of different cities. It
Cincinnati.
seems like people are migrating, from different areas, and because Indianapolis was never up to 4 or 5 years ago. We've experienced the most murders that I've ever seen, living here.
Right.
Peak murders. What do you think that is? What do you think is happening in that arena?
Well, I'm asked this question a lot, and I think we are getting a lot of traffic from Chicago and Gary and Fort Wayne. The drug thing, the drug thing is just so bad. I mean, you very rarely go on runs where there isn't some type, either they're ODing or they're buying or they're selling or something. So that, is just it's a huge climate of where crime breeds.
Right.
But I think, if someone were to ask me what's the specific thing that I feel like or the issues that I had is really this younger generation and the feelings that they have that they don't anticipate being alive at 22 or 23. And their goals, they don't really have goals.
Right.
Maybe the goal for the day. But as far as thinking outside the box and what am I going to do, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I would say is that lacking direction, lacking goals, lacking just the whole, like I care about you just because you're a human being is gone.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that with technology and a lot desensitized the youth in regards to, I think they lost hope in a lot of different things as well. I think that everyone is failing, as parents, as whatever our job goes, because these kids come into the world, they don't necessarily know what's happening, but their surroundings are what they see and what's going on with them, and they're shoved with technology and all these different things. I think that contributes a lot to it.
I would agree.
What do you think, as a former detective and as a detective, what do you feel is a solution to curbing that? Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of things happening today. There's a lot of tension in different arenas, and people are really trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. There are officers on the street in different areas actually talking with kids and building up that rapport, and then boom, something happens. It's like it's a catch-up game. So what do you feel like is a solution?
Well, I'm hoping the program that I'm running now helps because we get kids that are semi-interested in law enforcement as a career possibly, but I'm just taking kids that want to just be involved in something. And I think
That's
it's
good.
all in the way that you the interactions that you have, the conversations with youth is just speaking. I'm an adult, and so you're a child, and you don't know anything, or I have a gun and badge, and I'm better than you. And
Right.
I meet with these kids texting and doing that time when we're engaging. So I think it's just the loss of engagement, and then parents, moms, dads, all these people, they're working.
Right.
So and that became it. Where you just sit down and have a conversation, and you're like, how are you doing? Like, how is everything going? What's going on? How can I help you?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that is something that I am trying to do, and I think most officers were trying to do that because, when people call the police, they're not having a good day.
Right.
Nobody's calling me when they're having a good day.
Right.
And if we can get out and just engage, and I feel like the experience that I have, I can go into any neighborhood in the city.
Right.
It doesn't matter
Right.
what neighborhood I
That's
can.
awesome.
I rolled in Hallville for a long time.
Sure.
I can go to 45th and Post, and getting out of the car and just, what's up? Let me
Right.
let me play
Right.
basketball
There
with
it
you.
is.
Do you
Yeah,
want to pop?
yeah.
Anything. And
There it
those
is.
things go a long way because then
Absolutely.
they view you in a different
Absolutely.
sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, then I think with the whole bridge of how law enforcement is looked at,
Right.
you know,
Right.
because like I tell people, there are bad cops. There absolutely are, but probably 98% of us are
Are good.
really good, and we
Right.
really want to do the right thing. But
Absolutely.
when one does something bad, we all, you know, I see something
Yeah.
bad on TV, and I'm like, ugh, like I'm gonna pay, I'm
Right.
gonna pay for that. Ugh.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to, ask you, what is your take on that verdict for that guy getting killed in Minnesota?
you know, it's one of those things where, you know, when there's video and there's those types of things, and you know, I did a seminar, like a seminar over at one of Tyndall High School, and we were trying to teach. I was brought in, and we were trying to teach people how to react to the police when they're pulled over, and we kind of gave different. So the people that were pulling over are nervous, were nervous,
Yeah.
and it's getting a bad type of are making mistakes. I mean, I'm really proud to say that in what color you are. I don't
Right.
want to be shot. I don't job of training us to do it, almost to the point where we're having conversations now where we're like, we're waiting a little bit, like we're almost putting ourselves in more jeopardy because I don't want to be on the news. I don't
Right.
want my
Right.
family to see those things. And when you have situations where unarmed people, you know, black, white, it doesn't matter. That, I mean, that. And I have to make a split decision. You know, those are very, very difficult decisions to make. And I've been in several situations. You know, through 22 years, there's so many times where I could have shot people and been justified. And for whatever reason, I just didn't do it, you know?
Right. Right.
And I think that, you know, when you've got video and these police officers are shooting unarmed people, I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That is an absolute problem.
Right.
And it needs to be addressed and it needs to be talked about. And, you know, I don't wish it on anybody, you know, and I don't want to shoot people. I
Right.
never have, you know, and I think majority of the officers don't, but we're in an environment and we're in a climate now where, you know, and I work late shifts, so I'm pulling people 4 or 5 deep in a car.
Right.
And statistically, I'm outgunned.
Right.
At
Right.
3 o'clock in the morning, if I'm pulling you, no, I'm nervous. You know,
Right.
they're nervous, and it just has an environment. But I can't sit here and tell you that any part of that is right when we're shooting unarmed people. I can't justify it. I won't try to justify it. Other than I can tell you that here in Indianapolis, it is drained in our brain. I mean, it is ingrained in our brain about trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is, because we're not
It
like
is.
other cities. We're not having those types of
Right.
things.
And that was something that I always thought about when it came to training. You know, we haven't seen a lot of that in Indianapolis. You know, there's been some cases here and there that were kind of iffy, but then after the case evolved and you start hearing it, you kind of understood what happened. But a lot of these other cities, they're bigger, they're more officers, you know, they're hiring more guys quicker. The process to become an officer is, what is it, 6 months?
Oh, it's longer than that. It's
Yeah.
a long
Yeah,
process.
it's longer than that.
Is it longer than
It's
that?
about 9 months,
From
realistically.
the time that they get out of training
Yeah.
to they're on the beat, how long is that process?
The minute you know, get online and to do that initial application to the minute they're out on their own is close to 2 years.
Yep.
Okay.
By the time the training
Yeah.
is on. So, I mean, it's a lot of training. And, you know, Indianapolis, we're really good at taking situations. Like, I go to the range twice a year, and I'll go and shoot for 8 hours. And it isn't like I'm standing there at the 50-yard line. I mean, we are moving. We're making decisions.
Right.
Um,
And when you say
I mean, we're jumping out of cars, and we'll take situations that have happened across the country, and we'll try to simulate that. And there'll be pictures of children. And if I miss and I shoot, you know, that child, that paper child, you know, that's imprinting on me. But, you know, that's just, I think the training, you know, is huge. And I think when you're interviewing and you're doing these background investigations on people that are trying to be the police, I mean, you got to dig into it. You got to,
Right.
people will show you their colors eventually, and if it's a little shady,
Right.
you got to pay attention to that.
Right. And people always talk about the blue code, the blue wall. Coming from an officer, how do you feel about the blue wall? I mean, like, is there a blue wall?
I mean, I think that there is.
Okay.
I think that I think as a member of the police department, you kind of almost get yourself into a little bubble, and that's something that, like, I don't hang out with cops very rarely. They're not the people that I.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting. Why not?
I did as a rookie and stuff, because you become, like, it becomes everything to you, and it's just like this, you're never off duty, and you're adrenaline, and those are the only people that get it, and then you end up swapping stories, and, oh man, this happened to me last night, and this and this, but it almost becomes a little unhealthy, where you're ingrained in it 24/7, and I think that in some instances there is, because I think that we think the average person doesn't know what it's like,
Right.
and so we have to stick together, because Joe Schmo out here doesn't get it.
Right.
Now, I mean, I looked at my beat partners, and if you were in trouble, I am coming to save you,
Absolutely.
and please do the same. But, as far as, like, if I see something wrong, I wasn't about it. I mean, I just wasn't about it,
Right.
and that made some, enemies along the way. I'm not going to cover for you. If you need, we go home at night, because that's the
Right.
goal. I mean, we mark on 10:41 at night, you're trying to go home.
Right.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that can happen in that 8.5-hour shift. But I won't lie, there's that code, but I just chose to,
Right.
not really. If you're doing it right, I'll stand by you. If you're not, I got to go.
Right.
Got to go.
There's some officers actually being investigated. I forget where that was, but they were being investigated. Was it Chicago? I think. I don't know. But there's 3 officers being investigated because they found out that the 3 of them together decided to lie on a police report. So this is 4 or 5 years later, but they're being investigated now because they found out internal affairs, found out that the stories didn't add up. So that kind of thing is like, do you think that guys hanging out together all the time as officers? Not that everybody's like that. I can't pigeonhole anybody. I'm just speaking on the guys who may not be good. Do you feel like that they hang out with the wrong crowd of guys, and that kind of enforces that blue code to where they don't want to necessarily put their friend that they hang out with all the time in a bad situation?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're doing wrong, you want people to, it's like anything else. When you're doing something wrong, you need people to help support that a little bit, and then when you get in, once you cross that line, it's kind of it's really hard to get back.
Right.
So you almost just have to stay. It's kind of like a lie. Once you lie, you just kind of have to keep lying.
Right.
And,
Right.
And I think that can happen. And absolutely, I think, bad goes with bad and good goes with good. And,
Right.
Right.
And as a former detective, how do you transition like a case? Have you had a case where it was somebody that you knew that you had to deal with as being a detective?
No, I haven't had that, but I've had cases where, I know these families so well. They'll send me Christmas cards every year. So I haven't had anything where well, that's not true. I ended up locking up. This is a funny story. I was working the street, and there was like a rolling domestic near the Children's Museum, and this guy was beating the crap out of his girlfriend in the middle of the street.
Wow.
And I get him subdued or whatever. I think I had to CS him or some big guy. And this guy, I remembered from high school. Well, I remembered him from like 8th grade. And he's like, you can't. I'm like, you bullied me, man. You bullied me in 8th grade. You're bullying your girl now.
Right.
That was the only person that I actually knew.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm taking you
Still
to
up to
jail.
no good.
What? He's like, we went to school together. I'm like, you bullied me. What?
Right.
So, but that was the only one that I actually knew. Thankfully.
That's karma.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy to see guys like, from long years ago, and you see them today, and they're doing the same stuff. You're like, dude, did you learn anything?
Right.
Ebony, you had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned the program that you have. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Well, so we're in the works of trying to do a television show, and then we've got this podcast going, which,
Medina Files.
the Mannina Files, that we briefly mention, or we briefly go through all of my homicide cases along with a lot of other cases, and we kind of, dissect them and kind of try to keep the viewer suspensed, and so they'll tune in next week. So that's what I've got going now. So I'm trying to retire. I
That
won't
is
lie.
what you're doing is so important, though. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you realize it. Like for you to take what you did as experience and then put that into a program that allows people to understand what happens as a detective, and to even think about some things. It's almost like 48 hours. Like, I had no idea a lot of that stuff went on if I hadn't seen 48 hours.
Right,
you know.
right. What goes on?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's serious. You know.
It's surprising what people will do to one another. It absolutely still. I mean, I can still be shocked today. Not as much. I don't get easily shocked, but to see the things that people do, and to give people a different perspective of how it's really done, because all these TV shows are done in 43 minutes, and you got DNA and fingerprints, and I'm like, oh god, that's just not it at all.
Right. It's a TV show.
Yeah, it's a TV show, and I think people and there's a huge audience for it. People love it. People, I mean, there's a channel that's 24/7 of crime.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wow. Now, so as a former detective, and I always go back to that because this is a topic of discussion. I think that you guys do some elite stuff. Has there been any situation where someone that you were investigating as a detective, you came and encountered? I know you told us about the one story where the guys murdered the witnesses or whatever, but have you ever encountered anyone outside of your detective work that you were like investigating, or you ever had a situation?
When I wasn't on duty?
Yeah.
Well, I start dating somebody, I'm investigating them, find out what they're about before I go out with them.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But I mean, no. But the thing is that when you're the police or you're a detective and it's ingrained in you, you're kind of investigating everything. I mean, you're just kind of trying to put pieces together and stuff. So, I mean, that's just kind of a way of life for me.
Right.
A little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So the Mannina Files.
I'm investigating you right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Trust me. Listen. I guarantee she's running a background man on all of us.
Right.
Oh, she did that before she came.
Yeah.
Oh, come on now. Detective work. I can't say that. Again, I watch TV is TV, but what I get from that, is that there's so much more to it. It does seem like it's longer than what it seems to be. Because I'm like, some of the stuff when they cut the commercial and come back, I'm like, they're missing some stuff. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But they do it just because that's TV. As a detective, you said you did 700 cases, almost 700 cases. How many of those were successful?
Probably, I think if you take homicide, in homicide, I solved all but 2. And those 2, I don't have a clue.
Wow.
So in homicide, I was able to keep a 95% clearance rate.
Nice. Wow.
And in the 80s, because I was in robbery for a while, and those are tough.
Yeah.
Right.
Those street robberies are just tough to
Yeah.
solve. And
Fingerprints, DNA.
yeah, it's just hard.
Yeah.
But probably somewhere in the 80s over my career, I would imagine.
I mean, that's still good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say
80%.
attributed to your success rate? What is besides your passion? Because I can tell.
People
us
are
all
like,
your
"Oh my
secrets."
God,
Passion just
you're so
grows.
good at your." I'm like, I'm not really like. It's not hard to me. Like you just
Watching chips.
talk to people. You learn how to talk to people and respect people.
Right.
And put yourself in their situation, because it's funny because the gray area media, but crime in these homicide cases, there's a huge gray area
Right.
to it, because
Absolutely.
my first homicide case, this woman was young and she was intoxicated and she made a bad decision and she ended up running over this guy and killing him. But that decision, was a decision that she made in a split second, and she wasn't. I remember when I interviewed her and I arrested her, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this person isn't a murderer.
Wow.
These actions that she took. So there's this huge gray area to what led up to her deciding to run this man. I went back. She's in prison. I locked her up. She got convicted for voluntary manslaughter, and I went back to the prison and spoke with her.
Wow.
And went and spoke with her mother, and went and spoke with her daughter, who was little when I arrested her.
Wow.
and went back and tried to close the whole, because I still cared. Like, I remember thinking, I can't do this job. Like, I like this woman. Like, damn.
Right.
I
Right.
was like, ugh. I wanted her to be meaner and more vicious than what she was.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. For the
and
crime.
for the
Yeah.
crime. And she just wasn't. And, so I think it just comes back to relationships. I had a lot of success, and it wasn't like I'm brilliant or, it's just, it's the way you talk to people.
Right,
My
absolutely.
parents taught me early on, it's the way that you talk to people, and it doesn't matter, what color you are, you're straight,
Right, for sure.
whatever it is. It's just
Right.
be cool to people, and that has, treated me well. Especially, working on the street, because everybody that I came into contact with or arrested was probably stronger than me,
Wow.
and so you learn to kind of
Right.
de-escalate situations in talking to people, and
Yeah.
really. Probably it saved my life many, many times because I'm not in a fight with you because
Yeah.
I didn't come up and disrespect you. And I remember an officer saying, if you can get them to understand why you've arrested them, then you've done a really good job.
Right. Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, and when I went back to the prison and spoke with this woman, she got, I told her I had to do my job,
Right.
and I know that it was a gray area
Yeah.
that led us to where we are now,
Absolutely.
but I have to do my job.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
How
Man.
long did she? Is she still
Tough.
there?
She's still there. I think she's got about 7 more years.
Oh wow.
Or
Wow.
5 more years. Yeah, 5 more years. And she'll be out. And she'll be like 40,
Right.
so
But
she'll
she was
have.
young when that happened.
She was
yeah.
young. I mean, she, she was young and she was drinking, and it was just, it's just like, man, she wasn't that person. She made a
Right.
really bad mistake. And a lot of these homicides that I had, it was a quick thing.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they were, what they represented in that moment isn't necessarily what they were about.
Yeah.
That was some. Like when they go and investigate a person comes in and they speak to them, they shake the hand. I'm like, this is possible murder. Why would you shake their hand? And shake the hand of a murderer. So, for you to go into that mode of being like, these are still people, nobody necessarily, most people don't necessarily go through an action where they know that they're going to kill someone. It's usually by accident or something that they intended to do, but somebody got killed.
Right.
I don't think anybody wants to actually. There's some people out there that are crazy that want to kill people, but it seems like most of the people get in these situations. They're like, "Oh my God, what happened? What did I do?"
Right.
And these are just real people. So for you to go to the jail and meet with this woman and just kind of that's going to change her life. She's probably going to get out and probably never drive because she'll probably ride the bus.
Right.
But some people just didn't mean to do what they they did.
It's a gigantic gray area.
Yeah,
It
big
absolutely
area.
is. It's a big gray area.
Absolutely. So how did they find you, the TV show? Because you're this awesome detective. They go to Indianapolis, or what happened? Did you put in an app to get
I didn't put an ad in the paper. I want to be on TV.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Well, so back in 2000, I was a baby detective. I had been in homicide a minute, and a production company came to Indianapolis, and they were doing a show called Women in the Badge.
Okay.
And they were going around the country highlighting women in law enforcement. So they hit up homicide, and I went in for interview. I don't know if it was an interview, but I went in and spoke to some people, and they went around the department, and I was one of a few females that were picked. And then they ended up catching a really, really good case, and it ended with a SWAT call out. I mean, it was a great TV. It couldn't have been better. But so that production company, or those people that were involved in that, several years later contacted me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing we want to come to Indianapolis and do a show on you and follow you. And I thought, how about my team?
Yeah.
How about my team? And so then they've ended up following the middle show. And at that point, we were leading the nation in clearance rates. I mean, we were killing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I thought, I'm never, I just think that I might have been good, but I didn't do it alone ever.
Right.
And
right.
so I didn't want to be the only one,
For sure.
feature us all, because we all help one another out. And,
Right.
and so that's how that happened. And then the shift was here for a couple years, and it was pretty well received because people got to see, there was no editing. There was just you following me around at work, and
Right.
I didn't change how I was going to be and
Yeah.
and things. And some days I look, and I didn't really watch any of the episodes because I would be like, oh my God, I look horrible. Like, where was my makeup? Like, what?
Yeah.
But, and then later, the shift went away, and then I was contacted again by a production company that was doing a show called Real Detective, and they wanted a case that was, like my worst case ever. And so that was featured. So that's kind of how, and then I just started thinking, there's something more. Like I felt like there's something more I could be doing.
Right.
And trying to give a different light of what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So
now you
here
got the Medina Files.
Now I'm here with
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
hanging out with
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, I want to get to the viewers. First
yeah.
of all, thank y'all for tuning in. Andrea Moorhead, she wrote, Monica wants to know what makes your podcast stand out from the others.
Well, I think the main thing is that you're listening to a detective that's been there, done it. A lot of these crime podcasts, they're talking about, cases that were in the news, but it's really going back and I've done it, been there, done it, and we're talking about how I did it. And then, we're trying to get back with the family. Where are they now? What are they doing now? Okay. How is this?
Yeah,
Because, when a homicide occurs, it's, obviously the victims impacted the victim's family, the cousins, the grandmothers, all those people. And then on the other side, you have the suspect's family and grandmothers and friends. And there are so many people that are impacted by that split decision that was made. And we're trying to go back and revisit and trying to, bring some closure to them, answer their questions, try to give them some sort of peace.
Right.
And then in turn, it's really helping me, you know,
Right.
because I cared about these people. I mean,
Right.
you just get vested into
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Are you training or have you trained other detectives?
I haven't, but that might be an idea for a show. Going
Nice.
and going to
Yeah.
different towns and trying to show them how to give them my suggestions on how to do it. But I think if I could say anything, is just treat people cool. Like,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know
Right.
why that's so difficult. I've been like, I'm not that bright, like, but I
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Relationships go a long way.
They absolutely do. Like I
Yeah.
said, I can go into Hallville right now and
Right.
get anything
That's
I
what we're here
need.
for.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's, I'm not special, but
Right.
I'll respect you and I'll
Absolutely.
sit down with you
That's the
and
big word, respect.
Yeah.
That's all that's taken. Respect is given the same way it's received.
right.
you know?
Well, and these young people, and a lot of murders are happening because you disrespected me, and
Right,
that's happening
right.
a lot in the. But I think there's some clouded ideas about what young
Right.
people think really respect
Right.
is, and
yeah.
and maybe,
Oh yeah. Yeah. The respect is just. I could go on for days.
yeah.
It's a different climate, when you're dealing with young people and everybody's fighting. But I think that this last election woke a lot of people up to really check in and try and figure this thing out
Right.
with everything.
Right.
So granted, we're in a climate where things seem to be still happening. There's so much more positive and community building happening that I think is going to have a huge effect on generations to come. So we're living in the pit still a little
Yeah,
bit, but
yeah.
we'll be out of it soon. I think here in the next few years. So,
Right.
but this is awesome, man. Viewers, if you guys have any questions or anything you want to ask Christine Mannina while she's on, now is the time to do that.
Here's a question. Here's a question from one of our viewers, Leslie House. Just given everything that you've done and that you are, doing now, how do you protect your mental and emotional state?
That's a real.
good
I
question.
don't know if I do.
Yeah.
I work out a lot. I have a small group of people that have been my friends forever. I don't open the circle up real wide.
Yeah.
But they've got me and I've got them, and
Awesome.
I lean on them, and they know me as Chris. They don't know me as
Oh, okay.
a detective or
Sure.
on the shift or
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just grounding. But I think in general most people are good, and so that keeps it. But I work out a lot. I like to travel and just
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm working with kids, which is, you know, really enlightening and a lot of fun.
Right.
That's the program
Yeah.
I wanted you to share more about. What
Yeah,
you're
so
doing.
it's well, I've got 2 programs going right now. So the
Okay.
Explorer program is for kids 12, and I've been letting 10-year-olds in because I can't say no. They come up and they're like, I want to be a police. But probably 10 to 18, and they're interested in law enforcement. So we meet on Tuesday nights at the police academy,
Okay.
and we do scenario-based training. Like I teach them, you know, how to handcuff people. I teach them how to talk to people. I teach them how to do traffic stops, mock traffic stops, and then almost every weekend in the summer we're out in the community doing something.
That's good.
You know, we've got, I know Holiday Park's doing several concerts that we're going to help with parking.
Yeah.
We walk in the Circle City Classic. They were out at the race at 4 in the morning. We were out there at intersections. So they're doing stuff every single weekend. And, you know, they get a little polo shirt that says Explore and a little badge, and they go out and get their gun belts and fill it with what, you know, they always want to carry stuff. And I'm like, you know, just try to keep it cool a little bit. Like, I get it, because I was that kid.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so these kids, it's a great program. And, you know, some of them will never be law enforcement, but, you know, I just kind of take anybody because it gives them, you know, somewhere to go. And it's a lot of fun. These kids are no joke. I mean, they're awesome. And we've got kids from, you know, every walks of life and every part of the city that, you know, and I had one kid, you know, we train a lot on safety and being prepared. And I had one kid that's been with me in the program for a little over a year, and he's walking down his high school, and he sees this kid that's kind of acting a little funny, and he sees a bulge in the back of his, you know, and he's heard me say bulge and, you know, be aware, and he went to the school police, and that kid had a gun. And, you know, and he was able to articulate, and I'm like, way to go, dude. Like, way to make me look good. But, like, so they're getting, you know, and we talk about what to do during an active shooter. These kids are in schools and trying to make good decisions and trying to teach them a little bit about social media, like what you put on there. Be careful what you put on there, you know, and Twitter and Snapchat and all that stuff.
People are just
They put their whole lives
you know,
on. Well, I've solved murders
right.
with Facebook.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
they're like flashing the gun. I'm like, what?
It's like
It's
a story. It gives you a
Thank you.
story.
Yeah,
Makes your job easier.
yeah. It does because they put everything out there. But
Inboxes and everything.
yeah.
You can
Yeah.
track. Because you go back weeks and you can track their behavior.
Yeah.
Some people are just so emotional they put everything on Facebook,
Text messages. I mean,
social
you know,
media, Instagram.
yep, all that stuff. So.
So I imagine this probably helped, like, throughout your whole experience with the whole social media and,
Yeah.
you know, all those things kind of help.
Well, they do. I mean, get a phone of a suspect, and you start, you know, get a subpoena and get into their phones and start reading their text message, and
Right.
a lot of times it's laid out.
Right, right
You know,
there.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Can't fight that. Can't fight what you wrote.
Would you consider taking on like cold cases?
Yeah,
throughout
that's what
the country.
Yeah, viewer wrote.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think I would.
and
You
try to
know,
like solve them and everything.
yeah, because I think, you know, those cases, and they get cold quickly. I mean, there's some truth to that first 48 hours and once they get cold, they become very difficult. But I think, you know, if I went around the country and assisted, anytime you can get a fresh pair of eyes on something and a different perspective and walking into it,
Okay.
and, you know, that could be beneficial. Absolutely.
Wow.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So what makes I'm just curious. I used to be really fascinated with this stuff. So what makes a case cold? Like what?
Well, I think that, like, you know, you'll get to the scene, and as things start to build, you have to run down these leads, and then when
Okay.
you come to a point where you're at a dead end, and you there's just no other lead. Like, I was the type of person, I ran down everything. It's silly, I didn't care. Just give me something, I'm going to run it down. And once those stop, it becomes really, really difficult. And then as each day passes, each hour passes even, it becomes more difficult. Because when you're at a homicide scene and you've got witnesses and things, it's emotional. And a lot of times people will want to talk.
Right.
Because people want to talk, believe it or not.
Really?
Even criminals.
Oh yeah.
Even criminals, they want to talk. They want to be heard. But, you know, you can capture those witnesses at the time when it's emotional, as opposed to trying to catch up with them a week later when
they've had time
Right.
to think.
they've
and-
had time to think, they've heard
process and
whatever's been out on the
Yeah.
street, and
Yeah.
what, you know, and they calm down a little bit. It's hard to get information from people.
Right.
It just is.
Right. Especially if those relationships haven't been built. You know,
Right.
like you said, you can go into an area like Hallville and pretty much get what you need, you know, because of the relationships built there. And people are willing to say, hey, he's over here,
Yeah.
you know, if they have a relationship with you.
Right.
I think, again, we're in a climate where in certain areas where people don't have that relationship and they're not giving up anything, you know. So another viewer asked, how do you feel about the, let's go to Darlene. Darlene said, were your parents supportive of you going into law enforcement?
You know, I was blessed. My parents were supportive of me being happy.
Okay,
And
that's
it's
good.
not like they didn't have fair warning, because I was 7, and I'm writing parking tickets on their cars and my neighbors' cars. So they were not surprised. So I think I gave them a good heads up about it. But, yeah, they're supportive. I think, you know, my dad rode with me one time as a rookie, rode with me one night, and he's like, oh, no, never again. And my mom wanted to, too, but she's like, can your dad come with him? I'm like, I can't have my whole family in the car. Like, come on. So they're supportive, and I think, you know, it's always that concern, but they're happy I'm off the street now and training kids and things like that. But I was blessed, absolutely blessed.
Oh, good.
How do you feel about the show, The First 48?
I think it's pretty good. I think it's the real deal. I don't think they do a lot of editing. I think it's pretty much the real deal with those things. I think they, you know, out of all the shows, that's probably the closest. Wow. You know, it's not The Shift, but no.
Hey, Cops is a classic.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't beat Cops.
One of the funniest shows.
Yeah, right. And it's like that's my whole life. Like that's every day. Like I'm like, what just happened? What? Like what just happened?
Leslie House says, have you ever worked with Kiana Quinette, and are there many women in law enforcement that are respected as much as you and Quinette?
I haven't worked with her. I have not. I think, I mean, I haven't really had much problem. I think women overall are pretty much respected. That's a good question. I can only, the people I've been around have been respectful of women, and I've been respected. I mean, not all the time, but for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a positive thing for me, and I'm hoping most of us are, because there's not very many of us.
Right.
Absolutely not very many of us at all.
Yeah, yeah. My aunt, she you know, oversees the whole PAL Club as far as like the kids part of it.
Right.
I mean, you know, she's been doing that for over 30 years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, she's I respect her. I like her. Like that whole family. That's just they're good people. Absolutely good people.
So you were a detective. Now you're not. What happened in why aren't you a detective anymore?
Well, I think I just got to a point in my career where, you know, trying to have a little bit of a life, you know, and just trying to see where else I get, you know, I need a challenge. And though it was still challenging, you know, it's very, very taxing.
Right.
And I think it came a point in my life where, you know, I had a loss of my own going on, and it just kind of puts things in perspective of where is my time most important.
Right, absolutely.
And I had missed a lot of things, and you know, so I think it was just time to transition to a lighter, maybe less stressful situation.
Yeah, I read an article not too long ago of an officer in L.A. who wanted out because he became desensitized to people in general. He just had a natural hate for certain people, and he said he had to get out of it because had he not, then his hate would have grown. You know, do you hear about officers experiencing that kind of thing?
I haven't really personally. I think that you get I think you can. I enjoyed people. Like, people they just crack me up.
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And I tried to make it fun. Like, you know, not all these runs are fun, but like sometimes, you know, I was working off duty and this woman came up and she was beside herself. She wanted me to lock up her boyfriend because she sent him to the store for creamy peanut butter and he came back with crunchy. And like, he comes out and the crunchy's in his hair. Like, and I'm laughing. Like, I'm like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, right? And so I think that when you get to that point, you better get out, you know, because not everybody, you know, just like
cream crunchy,
right? Like, you can't make that up. That's hilarious. You know, but I think I can see it happening. It's a really stressful job, and I think that you can, if you just go to work every night and you don't have other things where you're put in a position to see good in people,
Right.
then you're just dealing with, everyone's having a bad day when you're called.
Right.
No one's calling you to be like, I'm having a great day. I just want to let you know.
Right.
So I think you can get into that type of mindset. Absolutely.
Right. Good stuff. Tamika Israel says, how do you keep from becoming a victim emotionally?
That's a good question.
Well, I think that I don't all the time because I think, and I've told people this too, that as many wins as I've had just probably as many losses. And what I mean by that is if I'm going to a run where, somebody broke in and assaulted a woman and I turned down the wrong street. He went east and I went west.
Right.
I take that personal,
Right.
because I was right around the corner and I made the wrong call, or I didn't get an arrest in this case. So I think that you become a victim to a degree. It's just that whole balance of,
Right.
When I first started, I'm like, I'm going to save the world. And then reality set in, and then it just became, can I save somebody?
Yeah.
Right.
Can I have more wins in this shift
Wow.
than I do losses?
Right.
And I think, when I lost those 2 witnesses, I'll never recoup from that. Like, that will never go away for me.
Right.
And, some of these, when I had a baby, there was a baby that was killed because it was a 1-year-old and disrespected the boyfriend and threw her sippy cup and he beat her. You just don't recover from those types of things. So I think
Right.
I do what I can, which is track you down
Right.
and lock you up.
Right.
But, I think that you become, it's can I get more wins than losses? Because I can't
Right.
save everybody, and I'm not around the corner. I want to be, but I
Right.
might be down the street when the bad guy broke in, whatever the situation is. So you have to keep it in perspective,
Right. Right.
and just try to do the best you can. But
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah,
It makes a lot of sense. Jennifer Duncan says, has cyber forensics, if that's what it's called, ever helped you solve a case?
no, it hasn't. And we've got a great cyber unit, but it hasn't been in. It hasn't been that long since
Explain
we've had
what
it.
Yeah, what
cyber
is cyber
forensics
Well,
is for people.
I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you. I don't really
Okay.
know because I haven't had a lot of familiarization with it. But
Okay.
we do have a unit that is just totally doing that now. So,
Mm.
but I haven't had a case where, I'm kind of old school. I just go beat the bushes. Like
Yeah.
you're never going to solve a case at your desk.
Right.
You got to go
Right.
out there and find out what's
Yeah.
up. But I know that it's becoming kind of a big thing, and we've got a lot of skilled detectives in that field. And I'm not a real techie person,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I'm not even going to sit here and try to make up something. Sorry, Jennifer.
Jennifer, you have to go knock on the cyber forensics door and
Yeah.
get that
Yeah.
from them. This has been great.
Absolutely.
You're an outstanding detective. I read up on you, listened to the podcast. How you break down things from beginning to end is phenomenal.
Oh, I appreciate
And I encourage people to go to the ManninaFiles.com and subscribe to listen to the podcast that you have. Was you doing it weekly?
that. Yes.
Okay, weekly podcast. And, if you're a murder mystery person, you like listening to Detective Talk and seeing how things break down from beginning to end, this is what you want to go listen to, the Medina Files. Absolutely awesome. You were at the Crime Con
I was.
not too long ago. Those are the kind of events where they talk about crime and different, they have different tools that help you solve crimes and all these different things. Did they just start doing that? Because that's the first time I heard of
Yeah,
Crime Con.
Indianapolis hosted the first one.
Okay.
And it was a huge success. And
That's interesting.
It's not open
Yeah.
to the public, right?
it was open to the public.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's
You
like
buy
Comic
tickets.
Con, but for crime.
Oh,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so you had all these people, and they came from everywhere. We had people from Texas, Florida. I mean, they came. They were excited.
Right.
That's the crime buff people that watch all these shows, and they kind of got an interactive experience and
Yeah.
listen to some celebrities speak. And First 48 people were there, and Dateline people were there. And
Yeah.
To check that out.
it's going to be in Nashville next year, so we'll
Right.
be there.
Do you see yourself doing any more syndicated shows where you're taking what you do and putting that on the big screen? Or
Well, that's the plan.
yeah,
Trying to retire.
there it is. There it is.
Nice.
There it is. I just think it's so awesome that you're taking
Yeah.
what you did for a living and turn it into something that can be taught and shown after the fact.
Yeah.
P. Wills mentioned that, are you going to be training other officers, whatever? I think you should. I don't know, whatever program you got to put together or whatever. I think that's so important because your mentality and your actions toward things are great. The respect thing. I just think that if more people thought like you, that the world would be a little bit more better.
They should have a class, for kids on, like strictly for like cops,
Dealing with cops.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, I did that. We
should.
did that. We went to Tinley. All these kids were going off to college. So they're going everywhere around the country. They get scholarships.
Yeah.
And we literally went over on how to deal with if you're pulled over, because you may be going to a different city, you know,
Right.
what to do. Just, be cool, keep your hands, treat with respect and
Right.
just, get through it, because and it was eye-opening to them,
Right.
and they appreciated it, and we really wanted to put them in a position to succeed, because they've done so well in high school, and they're doing their thing, and they're going
Right.
to college, and we just thought, so we took a few hours, and we just said, look, this is the way to handle it.
Right.
Yeah, because I think that's extremely important, because for some reason people have this perception on cops as though officers are villains, but they view firefighters as heroes.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I never really. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, firefighters are running into burning buildings and saving people, and they're not locking anybody up.
Yeah.
We're having to lock people up, and we're pulling people over, and whatever experiences these people have with the police carries over. So if I pulled people over, and very rarely am I going to write a ticket. I mean, I speed, and you just kind of, it's the interaction, and I think that one interaction or one, thing that happens with an officer is transferred to
Absolutely.
that we're all that way. And I think as a department and as individuals, I can't control what an officer's doing. I can control me, and I can treat people the way I want it to be treated. But yeah, there's that stigma. And, I'm not looking, you write somebody a ticket. If I'm in Hawville or anywhere, South Side, it doesn't matter. I'm writing you a ticket, because you're speeding to go to work. I'm going to jam you up because here's a $115 ticket. Let's say your driver's license is suspended. So now what? I'm going to lock you up, and then you're going to miss your job, and then you're going to get fired. So you're not going to be able to pay this ticket. And we have such a great, I don't have to give you a ticket.
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't have to.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was always based on how are you going to treat me. If you treat me with respect, I'm not going to ruin your day. I'm going to ask you to
Right.
do whatever it is you did wrong not to do it. But I think the more that we can give people a break in that sense, because, I never felt like everybody needed to go to jail. Not everybody needs to go to jail.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe they just need to be talked to. Maybe
Right.
they just need to
Right.
be, and I think we can change that mentality of more of, just because I'm called to your home for whatever reason doesn't mean I have to leave with an arrest. It just
Right.
doesn't. You just
Right.
don't have to do that.
So is the quota a myth?
It's a myth, yeah. Because I won't even lie. Realistically, in the city of Indianapolis, we don't have time to do traffic. Like I'm running. When I was running the street, I'm just running from run to run to run. So if you did something that I had to pull you over, like you're driving backwards 100 miles an hour, like something funky,
Yeah.
for
Right.
me to even stop you.
Right.
But so yeah, that's a myth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a question I have for you in regards to social media. You said social media has helped out with solving crimes or whatnot. Do you feel like that has also been a hindrance to police work in regards to like video or whatnot? Because this climate of there's video everywhere. A lot of times this is kind of a two-part question. So the one question is has that been a deterrent for you guys in regards to solving cases for stuff that becomes public, video. And the other side is that there's been so many cases where the public is diverted. They could see it, it's happening, it's on video, and then it goes through the entire process, and then nothing happens. And it's like that doesn't really help. People have faith in the judicial system or the police,
Right.
because it seems like certain things are falling through cracks, and people want to believe that hey, they're out there for us, and then your kids start asking you questions. You're like, You know, what do you tell you?
Right.
How do you explain to your kid,
Yeah.
you know, or teenager what they're seeing and what they're reading and what they're, you know, you try and keep them from those circuits because they don't have all the facts, but it's everywhere.
Right.
You know, they can go when they start getting curious. Kids be kids. They go read it, go watch video everywhere. So and then they come to you with this question: how did that person not go to jail for doing this to this person?
Right.
You know, so
Well, I think the video, like if you take, for instance, the body cams. So if the body cams are great when everything's chill.
right,
You know, if I'm on a traffic stop and everything's cool and I'm walking the right way, but a minute there's a foot chase,
right,
the video is going to be jacked.
right.
I
for
mean,
sure.
and so it's not going to show
Right,
everything. And even some of these videos on traffic stops, you're not getting everything because if I walk up to you and you're moving around and you're doing, that's not always going to catch that. So you know, it can be beneficial. I'm for the body cams. I'm fine. Put a camera on me. I don't care
Right.
because I'm not worried about what I'm going to do or how
Right.
I'm going to treat you. But you know, with that being said, there is video, but it's not capturing everything.
Right.
It just isn't. It just isn't because it can't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those dash cams that are on police cars when they're making traffic stops, and then all of a sudden you're seeing the guy get out of the car and shoot the police. I mean, those capture, but that's a static camera that's on the car that's
Right.
showing, you know, and it just happened to happen right in front of it.
Right.
You know, so I mean, there's positive and there's negatives
Sure.
to it. I think that, you know, you can't, when the video is clear and the
Right.
circumstances are coming out, I mean, it is what it is.
Right. Right.
You know, but on some of those incidents where it looks bad, you know, and people don't have the full picture, they would be surprised because, you know, we put people through shoot, no shoots scenarios.
Okay.
So, like, I could grab you and say, we're going to go into this theater-looking room, and I'm going to put you in a situation, and you would be surprised
Right.
at how quickly it'd make a decision, or you shot
Sure.
that person, and then
Yeah.
you're looking at me going, but I thought, right,
Right.
that's me.
For sure.
But I thought he had a gun or she had a gun,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
so, you know, I think more education on that and maybe more people doing that. And ride-alongs are a great thing for people to do
Right.
because they really get to see up close and personal what it is about. And I would encourage that,
Yeah.
especially for people that are anti-police.
Right.
Come out and ride for 8 hours and get it because it will be an unbelievable awakening that you have never seen on TV.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you've never seen that.
Oh,
Live
yeah.
live it, and
They,
then
they try to do that with cops, you know, like the guy, but it just turns into comedy, you know. Maybe they
Well,
just do that for
right.
ratings or
Well,
whatever. But
probably do. But if you went on an 8-hour shift and, you know, and you rode with me one night and we're going to a domestic and then we're
Yeah.
going to a homicide scene and then we're on a chase.
Right.
I mean, you'll get to see the whole,
The
or
whole
we're in a
thing.
foot pursuit where,
Right.
you know, I finally catch you and I've got to control my emotions and my actions after you've tried to kill me or
Right.
something.
Right.
It would be very, you know, awakening to people and you know, and I think it would be beneficial for people
sure.
to see, you know, and police make mistakes. I mean, we're human,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and we have half a second to make a decision. I
Right.
mean, a half a second. If you don't, you know, it's just, you know, I've been in so many situations where I could have shot, I probably should have shot, and I didn't, and I'm just back in my car going, oh God, you know,
Right.
I'm a half hour into my shift.
Right.
This is what this day is going to be about.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I think it can be, you know, I think it would help everybody to do it because it's important for you to know what I do.
Right.
So the next time if you get pulled over, there'll be just that
Right.
information.
Right.
And it's not TV. It's absolutely not TV.
Right. That's good.
I would like to make a show
good.
to do that, like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
show
for sure.
exactly
Yeah.
what this is about. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Let's speak it into existence. It's coming.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
speak it.
This has been
Leslie,
phenomenal. Go ahead.
Hey,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
more
go ahead.
question. Leslie House posed this question. She says, IUPUI needs more women in SPEA that are investigators like you. Would you consider teaching in higher ed?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to IUPUI and spoken to many classes, and I have no problem doing that. I mean, I don't, you know, public speaking is another arena that I'm trying to look into
Okay.
and get the information out because I think that, you know, it's cool to see somebody live in person and to talk. And we do need more females because we police differently. We just police differently. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's just a different, and I think it could really help the communities that we serve to bring in a different way that women police.
Nice.
So absolutely.
Have someone ever been offended, like you've been teamed up with someone, like, oh,
Now you're starting to get a little crazy.
I bet you can't say
I
that.
mean, everybody's worked with people. You're like, dang, is he really backing up? He's backing me up.
Yeah. You got good cops for that, cops, yeah.
Yeah, or they drive a little slow to the run. I'm like, oh, he's not going to get here anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the majority have been good. So
Good.
Good.
That's good to
This
hear.
has been fun. Podcast is going, and what's going on with the Medina Files and you yourself. I think it's important. Community dialogue and talking with community is important. And I think that we need more of it.
yeah, I do too.
Definitely helps with the climate. With
Yeah.
what's going on. What we'd like to do now is do a closing remarks. We basically just talk to the viewers, let them know where to find you and anything that you have going on, and just leave them with some words of sentiment. So.
Okay. Well, like has been mentioned before, you can check me out on the ManninaFiles.com. I'm on Twitter, iTunes, Facebook, Google Play, all those things. Check us out. And, I think just be just try to treat people with respect and try to get it, get back to the day where it's cool.
Yeah.
Let's just be cool, people.
Right. There it is.
Yeah. It's the best I got.
Yeah, that's good.
It's not Harvard, but it,
No,
it
that's
works.
really good.
Yeah.
That is
Keep
really
it real.
good.
Just keep it real.
Short and simple.
Keep it real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you summed it up. We just need that kindness and value for each other. And I'd like to thank you for coming on, and thank you for what you've done. As I sat next to you, most of the time I'm thinking like, wow, she's, I went to school with a lot of people that are gone, and I was thinking, I wonder if she worked those cases,
Wow.
and to have a 95% success rate, I'm like, wow, I can see that those families, somebody, at least one,
Somebody cared
was
about
touched by
them.
you.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your
I
work.
hope so.
Yeah.
That's the goal. It was the plan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
P. Wills.
Hey, thank you for coming. Whatever we can do to help, we would love to, have you back.
Sure.
I would just like to sit, just really say that, if people really understood what officers go through, they would really want to better that relationship between the officer and the civilian. Let's do that, man. Let's not just be so quick to judge and just put them all in a bucket and say, they're all bad, because, as you can see, she's a beautiful person, that really cares, about people and community and what she's doing. I tip my hat off to you, and just wish you all the best. And, just come back.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
There it is. Like everybody said, thank you for coming. This is a big on. People just want answers sometimes,
Yeah,
and they don't get to talk to a person like you or hear from anybody who seems concerned about what's going on. Most of the time, they just get the news, the media, social media, and all those things meshed up in a ball are not always great, especially when you can't talk to anybody. I think people are as concerned as the people that it's happening to. So that a lot of people put themselves in those shoes and they just want answers. So it's beautiful that you were able to come here and talk to us, representing the Mannina Files. Again, I can't say that enough. I think that it's awesome that you're doing that.
Very transparent.
I don't even know if there's any other detectives doing that. You might be the.
I hope not.
You might be the one and only. So I encourage everybody to go check out Christine Mannina at the ManninaFiles.com. Subscribe to the website. Like I said, if you like listening to the detective stuff, listening to murder mystery cases and cracking them and solving them, maybe you want to become a detective, this is where you go. So go check her out. And I just want to say thanks to our viewers for always rocking with us, sharing our feeds, and just hanging 10 with us. We are the Gray Area, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Peace.
providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern-day issues. The gray area and its naming significance solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook. At The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you.